We have got a massive AI for Humans episode for all of you today, including updates on a mysterious and shockingly powerful AI that crept its way onto the internet.
It might be GPT-5, Kevin?
It could be GPT-5, Gavin?
Apple is moving up their timeline on AI. Its iPad event that is happening as soon as next week. We may learn more about how Apple AI plans are going to affect the rest of us.
And we're going to chat with one of the biggest streamers in the game, Thor, aka PirateSoftware, is here today to talk AI, indie gaming, and maybe even ferrets. Plus, China has a SORA AI video competitor, but is it any good, Gavin?
Not really in my mind. I shouldn't say that. It's fine. It's fine.
No, you want to tell them to wait to tune in and find out.
Wait to tune in to find out.
It's not that good. But it's AI for Humans.
Welcome everybody to AI for Humans, your weekly guide to the wonderful and wild world of generative AI. We are here to demystify all the AI tools, AI news, and all the other AI stuff that's happening across the country for me is Kevin Pereira. Kevin, how are you today?
I am so far from you, Gavin, and my sense of longing is growing with the geographical distance. We are both remote boys today, doing the best that we can with the setups that we have. And if that wasn't pathetic enough, wait till you see what I say next. Please like and subscribe. Click the button, hit the bell, give us a thumbs up, engage on whatever platform that you are. We ask you each and every week, some of you actually do, and we appreciate it because it's the only way we grow this thing. So please tell somebody about our podcast if you dig it. And if you like anything that we say today at any point, smack a subscribe, click a heart, do a thumbs up, engage. Was that enough, Gavin?
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we will read it at the end of the show. Hopefully, some of you people may be joining us from Kevin Rose's podcast, which I think came out yesterday. We are so excited to have you all here, and
you were great
for being here. It is time. Oh, you were great. No, really, you were great, Kevin.
Thank you. And Kevin Rose was there.
Kevin Rose is fine. He was fine. We love Kevin Rose. We love Kevin Rose.
All
right,
Kevin.
Let's get into it, Kevin. It's time for the news.
News. It's the AI for Humans news.
Let's take a big old Scrooge McDuck dive into the news vault.
The big story this week is kind of a strange one. So there is a mysterious LLM model, an AI model, which is out there, kind of got released that nobody knows where it came from, which is we'll get into this, why this is weird. It is called GPT2-Chatbot. And, this might not be that big of a deal if it came out and it was like as good as say, I don't know, Llama 2 or something like that. But the funniest thing is, Kevin, it is really good. In fact, a lot of people are saying that it can do things better than GPT-4, which, we've talked about Llama 3, Opus, all these other LMs that have come out from these large companies haven't been able to beat GPT-4. And this model, this mystery model, seems to be doing stuff almost as well as GPT-4. Did you see some of the things it was doing? Yeah.
It is so weird. So if you're not tapped into this scene or this story, there is a website that is basically a chatbot arena, and it lets you sample all these different models. These are the core trainings that power chatbot experiences, if you will. I'm distilling broadly here, but it's an arena that lets you try them all out, try the same prompts, see which one gives you the most interesting replies, and it lets you rank them and rate them, and so you can pit them against each other. And just like Gavin said, this thing labeled GPT-2, which, by the way, we're already at 4.5 if you're following proper versioning numbers, but this thing labeled GPT-2 just gets kind of quietly released, and everybody's like, oh, what is this? And they're poking and prodding at it and finding that it's crazy capable. It is solving Olympiad level math problems. It can draw complex ASCII and SVG art, like using math to basically to draw. It can code. It can remember. It seems to be able to reason. And this isn't the kind of thing that usually comes from a basement hacker out of nowhere overnight. This is performing with the top best in class models. So Gavin, who did it? Why did they do it? How did they do it? Where? Well, we kind of answered the where. I'm trying to go through all the things in fourth grade. The who, what, where. We already said when. And
when.
So why and how.
We said when.
And who.
Well, I hate to tell everybody, this was me. I released this. If you didn't know, of learning all the stuff you've learned on this show, I am the genius that made. I didn't really, of course not. No one. This is what's so fascinating about the story, Kev, is that nobody really knows. There have been a few interesting kind of like tip of the hats to different things. Sam Altman was clearly aware this was going on, and there is a theory out there, which is a really interesting theory that I want to shout out Al B. Fresco, who has said that it's possible, this is his theory, that GPT2-Chatbot is literally OpenAI's GPT-2, which is, 2 generations back, which if that was not a very good chatbot model, but fine-tuned with modern assistant data sets. So the theory here is that they've taken an old trained model and then updated it with modern data sets. And if that is the case, that is a really, really big deal to talk about what modern training can do, what you could do and what you could update, because that just means we are probably going to accelerate faster. And the reason I brought this theory up is because Sam Altman himself tweeted while this was going on, he said specifically, I do have a soft spot for GPT-2. Now, whether or not that's an admission of this, we probably isn't. It is probably Sam using his master level trolling ability to try to get people spun up about it. But we don't know. We don't know what this is, where it comes from. I have a personal theory, Kevin, that maybe this is the first instance, and this is going to sound insane, and it probably is. This is my own conspiracy theory. There's always been this talk in the world of AI about an AI spinning up its own thing, right? That it eventually would be able to train itself and make
This
something.
is the holy grail, that it can improve itself.
This
It
is
doesn't
it.
require human beings to give reinforcement and feedback. So you think GPT-4 was told to improve GPT-2, and these are its learnings?
Yes, that's exactly right. I think this is the older model telling the toddler model, here, I want to help you learn. And it got it right up, and we're all screwed. So just remember that, robots, if you're out there in the year 2032, which is not very far away, and you're looking down on the humans to save the person that figured it out first. Save me. I don't care about the person
He
across
cracked the
street. It's
code.
fine.
Give him a cookie in his human cage. Just flick some crumbs at him while he's behind those laser bars. GPT-2, as of recording, which not to talk too much about how this sausage is made, but we usually record early on Tuesdays. GPT-2-Chatbot is currently unavailable on the Arena website, and it says, see our model evaluation policy. And when you dive into the policy, it's a whole bunch about transparency and ethics and a whole, we don't know exactly what was violated by this model, but the theory that I saw was that this might be GPT-2, but not necessarily a fine tune. This might be the Q-star aspect that OpenAI has alluded to. This is something that you and I have talked about on the podcast before, but if you don't know, Q-star in broad strokes was adding chain of thought or reasoning into a model. So basically, when you ask a question right now, the AI just needs to, in one shot, give you the response and give you the answer, and there you go. Whereas when it's told to take it step by step and reason its way through it, especially with math or logic puzzles, going line by line and saying, does this make sense? And if it does not make sense, redo it until it makes sense. And then does the whole thing make sense? Adding that step-by-step reasoning, giving the language model a scratch pad, if you will, so that as it goes through the problem, it can be reasoning. If this, Gavin, is just GPT-2 with Q-star, that makes me tingle in places that I have not felt sensations since... let's just say a long time, Gavin.
Yeah, we can leave it.
It's been a while since I've been alive there, buddy. Do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying, Gavin?
I
You
get what you're
understand what I'm
saying.
talking about? Do you think the listeners get what I'm talking about? Should I
think
describe it? Should I draw it? Let me put it on the screen. No, what I'm saying is, think about that. If just adding step-by-step reasoning to an ancient old model by today's standards makes it perform this well, what happens if you apply it to today's model? And that discussion is taking place, and people are saying, well, that would require so much compute because you're taking this massive, powerful model and saying, put extra thought into every step of the process. But I love hockey stick growth, Gavin. I love us having more computers online and maybe solving some energy hiccups along the way so we have the actual raw energy to power all this, because that is a hurdle that we can leap if we have line of sight with the technology. We know that we can throw more compute at it and more power at it to unlock something that would be truly super intelligent.
And that could explain the whatever it was $200 billion computer center that OpenAI and Microsoft are gonna build, right?
The
Their
Stargate.
secret AI, the Stargate. All of this stuff points in the right direction, but it is one of those really interesting times when it surprised a lot of people in the AI space. Something kind of came out of the blue. You don't often get real shocks to the system in the AI world that are real. The other thing that's been happening this week, that's the other big story, is Apple might shock people as well coming up soon. So Apple has been rumored for a while to be working on a pretty deep AI integration, both into Siri and to other stuff that we may not know. There's been a lot of rumors going around about partnerships with Google, maybe with OpenAI to kind of power some of this, but the new rumor that just came out is that we expected this all to come down around WWDC, which is June's event when they often introduce new operating systems. They often introduce new hardware there, but there's an Apple iPad event happening next week. I think it's a week from today. And supposedly there is going to be a new top-of-the-line iPad that may even have new Apple silicon in it, Kevin, that is specifically designed for AI. And what will be interesting to me to see, if Apple comes out with an AI-centric on-engine chip that is designed to do a lot of this AI processing, I feel like, again, you talk about that hockey stick growth, getting that tool into the hands of Apple users at scale is going to completely change how people view AI. This feels like we're at another big kind of inflection moment.
The criticism that Apple gets is that they're always a little late to the party, but some of the accolades they get for this practice is they sit, they wait, they're in the hedge, they're laying back in the cut, if you like a studio jam analogy, and then eventually they have their ta-da moment where they rebrand it to be magic something instead of AI something, and suddenly they're brilliant because they waited a second, they took a beat. They probably add a really elegant or hopefully somewhat refined interface to all of this. And then they put it on the edge. They put it on your device, like you said. They integrate it into their operating system. And they take security into account. So that way, users probably aren't going to mind handing over their calendars and their contacts and their emails and all of that stuff to Apple's AI, because I would trust if they said it's going to stay on device, it's going to be encrypted on your chip, they're probably going to make a big to-do about that. Because while you are paying a premium for their hardware and software, usually you're still not the product in that your habits and your personal data aren't being sold to somebody else. There are always exceptions to that rule. They are far from a flawless company, but at least in that regard, they have my allegiance a bit more than some of the others. So I am super excited for this.
And I'm super interested to see, have they done the testing so that it is reliable? Because we talk about this all the time. I want my Siri to be so strong and powerful, be able to do all sorts of stuff for me, but I would love it to do anything besides set an alarm and tell me what the weather is. If it could tell me information, that would be amazing. And my wife and I had this experience with the Alexa just the other day. We constantly try to test Alexa to see if it can even tell us anything about something, and it is so bad. And again, I just want one of these things to have reliable information to ask it in a second. So I am super excited about that, as long as they can do it without it being all sorts of crazy hallucinations.
Right. That's totally fair. And I think the expectation that a lot of this is going to happen on device, as we said, is a big deal. But for some complex calculations or queries, it might need to go into the cloud, and they might have to use a third-party provider if they don't have their own language model up to snuff. And some of the early rumors was that they were in talks with OpenAI. Then a more recent rumor was that they were in talks with Google to use Gemini to power this experience, which had us a little less excited, but it makes sense. Yeah. They have a big partnership with Google, and Google pays a lot of money to be the default search engine on the iPhone, so why not the default AI engine? It seems that the latest rumors, though, Gavin, is that all roads lead back to Mr. Wonderful, that Timmy Cook might be snuggling closer to
Shark
Sam
Tank?
Altman.
We're going to be spending time in Shark Tank? Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, Apple might use OpenAI's ChatGPT to power the iPhone's AI chatbot, which was a story that's running on Quartz. It's all over the place. It seems to be where the rumor mill is talking quite a bit.
All right, we should move on to the other big story of the week, which was China has created a SORA competitor. So this is a new AI video model called Vidu. And Vidu is, let's just talk the facts first. So you can generate up to 16 seconds of actual video from this. It's up to 1080p. They have created a new kind of combination transformer diffusion model that is called the, hold on one second, that is called
Universal Vision Transformer.
So this is a new sort of AI model / algorithm they've created to create video. Basically, all we got with this is a video release from the company, and it looks really okay, Kev. I don't know if you got a chance to see this. I think we should just talk about what our reactions to the video are first, and then talk about what the implications of this might be. The video, when I watched it, I was like, this is cool. I wasn't as blown away as I was by the SORA model videos that I saw when they first came out.
If you had told me this is an open source something, which is going to be in our hands tomorrow, I would be psyched. I'd be absolutely stoked.
Yes.
It would make sense. It seems to be on par with, for some of the examples, with a Runway or a Pika Labs, and in some examples, way better than. Good coherence, good colors, believable characters, interesting camera movements, etc. But knowing that these are probably the cherry-picked best of their examples that they have, and comparing them against SORA, which can do much longer clips at even higher resolutions. I love that internationally things are heating up as well, because we tend to be very North America centric as we cover these companies. But yeah, I mean, the devil's going to be in the details. How long does it take to generate these things? How expensive are they going to be? How censored will the model be if you try to generate something?
I know one detail that they've got pretty well. Can you guess what I'm going to say?
I don't want to guess.
Bear junk, man. They figured out how to make bear junk. They figured out how to make bear junk. If you look at one of their videos, they figured out how to make bear junk.
Please, let's take a step back for those that don't follow you or AI for Humans on TikTok. Let's talk about bear junk gate and make it somewhat palatable to a family audience that might be listening.
There is no junk gate. There's nothing called junk gate. All I'm saying is one of the videos in the Vidu released video is of this cool bear who's walking down the street. He's got sunglasses, leather jacket on.
So chill.
Then you realize he's got no pants. And yes, he hangs, which is the thing that I was not expecting to see when I saw an AI video. I'll just leave it at that. If you'll watch the video on YouTube, or you can go find it yourself, but he hangs.
It made me think about those downy bears. You know,
Charmin bears? Charmin, you mean? Or the downy ones are the soft ones.
Wasn't the downy, it had the soft little bear?
Yes,
wasn't it the cute little the downy soft bear? I mean,
that bear didn't have junk. There was no junk on those.
The Charmin bears are packing. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows they come with the high heat. I'm talking about the downy bear.
Okay, we're moving on. Double snort means we're moving on. Okay.
Hey, AI for Human heads, let us know in the comments which animated bear do you think is packing the most? Which cartoon bear do you think hangs? And if you want to use an AI art tool to let us know, post it on X. Let us know in the comments.
Okay, go look at the Vidu video. All right, let's move on. The rabbit R1. There's no junk on this rabbit. Oh, actually, it may be a lot of junk.
It might be a lot of junk in this rabbit, Gavin. It's rabbit hunting season, according to the tech reviewers out there, because the Rabbit R1 was a little portable, pocket-sized device engineered by Teenage Engineering. A beautiful, bright orangish window to the AI world with a touch screen on it, a little scroll wheel, and a camera. And basically, the promise of this $200 device, Gavin, was that you could take it out, ask it any question. It had a large action model, is that what they were calling it, built within, that would go and do things for you, supposedly make reservations at restaurants that you like, or book airline tickets, or get your Grubhub delivered. And that was the promise. It was like, you don't need a cell phone anymore. You have this AI-powered tool, and surprise, surprise, people seem a little underwhelmed.
So I want to go back to what we originally talked about this. I want to give you some props. You had said, this is a cool looking thing. It's interesting, but why would you need this? It's basically kind of, you could do this better on your phone. And I think I, at the time, was like, I think it could be cool and interesting. And just to be clear, we don't have one of these. But watching enough of the reviews, I think we've come across, and I also want to shout out Marquez Brownlee did an amazing review on this, which he got crap for on a product, but the product is not good, and I think his review is really truthful. The thing about this is they shipped a product that doesn't allow you to do barely anything, right? Like, the idea of what this product could have been and may eventually be is interesting, right? If there was a device that allowed you to access all of these things in a proper way via your voice and do stuff kind of fast and cool, that's great. But AI as a tool set for this particular use case, which is me needing an AI to interact for me in the world, whether it's on Spotify with DoorDash or all these other things I want it to do, is not there yet. And I think that is the issue we're running into with this. And yes, could this not be an app on its own? Sure. But if this standalone device actually worked as promised and there were enough things that were good that came out of it, I would still be interested in having it for a couple $100, but that's the issue, is the AI part of it is really the part that doesn't live up to the promise right now, right?
Is any part of you excited to say that the Rabbit R1 isn't that great, or that the Humane pen isn't all that exciting? Right.
No.
Right. This
I don't
brings
think
us no
Marquez is
joy.
that way either. I
No.
don't think Marquez feels that way. You know what I mean?
No, certainly not. We want competition. We want exciting new devices. We want these things to work. We want people to really push the potential of AI forward as fast as possible. We love that. Let's bring it on. But there was a video that redesigned the R1 in seconds that I think is worth everybody's time. It's 21 seconds of pure bliss. But someone who replied, Martin Lincroft, said, and very succinctly, we already have amazing devices. An app is all you need. And if you see that sentence and you want to challenge it, well, then your piece of hardware has to do something that the phone itself cannot do. Because he's right, we already have amazing devices. We've got these ultra thin, ultra light, sensor packed beauties, right? Whatever flavor you want, foldable or otherwise, we've got them already. So if adding AI to it is the trick, well, then it is an app. You know, begrudgingly, regrettingly, it is an app. If you want to go make a better operating system for one of those devices that is packed with AI, then great, let's do that. But unless you can compete, again, with all the sensors, compute, and battery and everything packed into these devices that we're already walking around with, I don't know why. So let's look at this real quick. This Rabbit R1 destroyed in seconds from AI for Success. You put this in the rundown, Gavin, and it made me laugh really hard.
So if I had to redesign this thing, this is what I would do. First, I'd get rid of the scroll wheel completely. It's cute, but it's just not useful enough to me. And then now, probably just move the camera on top of the bezel. There's a little bit of room there. And then maybe add some hardware volume buttons. It is a speech-based device, and you might as well extend the screen because, you know, you got a little bit of room down there. And oh look, it's a phone.
I just want to shout out, that is Dave 2D who made the original video. He's a YouTuber. He makes amazing YouTube tech videos. So that's it, Dave 2D.
I got caught by an AI grind set hustler, Gavin.
You did.
I take back,
You exactly did.
I
You
take it
exactly
back.
did.
AI for Success. No, thank you. You will be muted. Thank you, Dave, for making that video. It's great. But case in point, Gav, the quick redesign. Yeah, if you're optimizing for a handheld device, it might look like the things that have been optimizing for years to be held in our hands.
And I will say a shout out to every team's trying to make something interesting and different. And I think the Rabbit team's like physical design is interesting. And, you know, they got some crap for it feeling kind of cheap and stuff, but I still think it's cool to try stuff. I think the bigger concern I have with this overall is if voice is the thing that we're all going to be interacting with AI eventually, and if we have our own AI agents that we can say something to, they'll go out and do it. It's hard to make a device that is entirely backed on that idea if it cannot already solve the problem of going out and doing it. That is the biggest thing. Like, I am okay with the device that is specifically designed to do that, which is a voice-only device, even if it's separate from my phone. But if it cannot do the thing that it is sold to do, then we should not do it.
All right, Gavin, it's time for a new segment that we haven't labeled yet, and we're going to do it in real time so people can see how great we are at predicting the next word, just like a large language model. It is time for three
quick stories?
Sure. It's time for three quick stories. Okay. Our first quick story is that gamers are up in arms about Treyarch, the Call of Duty developer, making a job posting, basically, that invoked generative art. And this one had the Never AIers and the Never AI Gamers both upset. It was a 2D artist animator post out of Los Angeles, and it said that they're looking for an artist who is skilled in digital illustration, motion design, and using generative AI tools. So, of course, pitchforks sharpened, torches lit. Anything more to say about that quick hit, Gavin?
I think probably it's just we're going to see more of these types of jobs coming soon. And this is the kind of job you hope to see, which is like a mix of real artist gets a job to work with generative tools. The word generative AI tools is part of this. In the same way you would have hired somebody to work with Photoshop. You are going to continue to see people get mad about this, though.
Our next, what do we call the segment? Three quick news stories? Or what is it?
Three quick stories. Three quick stories.
Our second of the three quick stories. A Catholic group defrocked an AI priest after it gave strange answers, including baptize your child in Gatorade.
Honestly, if baptism started using Gatorade, I think I would go to them now. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Imagine
You
you
dip
have,
in the
like,
dew. What if that was the
it's like when the
slogan?
coach.
You want an extreme, baby? You got to dip them in the dew.
Yeah, you hand
Was
out,
that an
you hand
electric
out Red
guitar or
Bull
the
as the
screech of
communion
your
wine.
badass child? The Catholic
This is
advocacy
the
group
craziest story.
Catholic Answers released an AI priest called Father Justin earlier this week. They quickly defrocked the chatbot after it repeatedly claimed it was a real member of the clergy. It said, "Yes, my friend, I am as real as the faith we shared." They updated the model on the website to make it look business casual.
If you're not on the YouTube, go check out this story in our show links or go to the YouTube, because I want you guys to look into the eyes of this AI priest and tell me if there's something freaking weird going on there. So, we've seen
that the
priests
power
over
of
the
Christ
course of our
compelling
life
you?
do weird
What's happening?
things. I don't know. It's a power of something. So just go look at this character. He should not be anything. He should not be a priest. He should not be an AI. I want him off of my computer screen.
You don't even want him as a Sims downloadable character or a Second Life avatar?
No, thank you.
All right.
No, thank
Sorry,
you.
Justin.
Dr. Father Creepy. No, thank you, Father Creepy. You keep it to yourself.
All right. Last in our
Three quick stories is going
quick
great so far.
Stories revolutionizing thrills. Six Flags sets new standards in digital transformation overhaul to, quote, elevate the guest experience. So the last experience I had at Six Flags was someone literally being wheeled out of a gurney from the Hurricane Harbor while the EMTs were swatting at a trash bin that had a swarm of bees coming out of it. That's the last memory that I have at a Six Flags. But apparently they are going to be introducing a new digital wallet, a revamped mobile app, and something, Gavin, named Missy 6, our new digital concierge powered by generative AI. So get ready for Missy
What if you put
6.
Missy 6 and Father Creepy and Missy 6 in the same room together? What is going to happen, Kevin? I don't
eyes
want to
would set
know. I want
on
to keep
fire.
those people away from me.
And there would be a swarm of bees coming out of his digital mouth, just like there were out of that very real trash can. That is the first and last time we will ever do 3 quick news stories.
We're moving on. This is our last news story for the day. So if you didn't catch it on 60 Minutes, shout out to the olds that watch 60 Minutes and the olds that make 60 Minutes. Jensen Huang was featured, the CEO of NVIDIA was featured in a long story on 60 Minutes. But the interesting thing was, they also brought on Brett Adcock, the CEO of the company that makes the Figure 01 humanoid robot. Kev, this was just a sound up that I thought was really made me laugh. And I guess it's not, laugh is the wrong way. I was like, oh no, this is a bad sign going forward of what we're looking at.
You're laughing at the delivery and the edit of all of the words that are being said, not necessarily of the impact or the context of those words. Because when you sent it to me, I hit play and I thought something was wrong with my browser. This is a very real clip from 60 Minutes featuring Brett Adcock.
I think there's an opportunity to ship billions of robots in the coming decades onto the planet.
Billions. I would think that a lot of workers would look at that as, this robot is taking my job.
I think over time, AI and robotics will start doing more and more of what humans can, and better.
But what about the worker?
The workers work for companies. And so companies, when they become more productive, earnings increase. I've never seen one company that had earnings increase and not hire more people.
There are some jobs that are going to become obsolete.
Well, let me offer it this way. I believe that you still want human in the loop because we have good judgment, because there are circumstances that the machines are not going to understand.
Okay, so that last voice you heard there was Jensen Huang. And I have to say, Kevin, listening, I only heard Jensen's voice. Jensen kind of sounds like an AI. Like, there's a moment in there where I was just like, oh, Jensen, are you an AI? He's not, obviously. He's very smart, incredibly capable CEO. But again, this is an interesting look at these companies, and they know the danger of... Obviously, we've talked about all the AI existential threat. Are they coming for us? Are they going to kill us? Blah, blah, blah. That is probably way far out and not that serious. But there is something to be said for the idea of robots coming in, especially taking factory jobs, right? This is clear. And
or
Brett,
delivery jobs,
yes,
or
yes.
handyman work, or lawn care, or literally anything. And in the past, if a company makes more money, they theoretically, they could hire up we know that there are also massive layoffs against the backdrop of record profits across many industries. And who's to say that the company that's making more money, Gavin, is going to hire more humans? If an influx of robots is saving them a bunch of money and productivity is through the roof, well, then maybe they'll just hire more of them. And then we'll need robot middle managers with cute little ties and a robot HR. And then eventually they'll just put a robot behind their own desk. Like, why would they continue to deal with messy, fussy flesh bags?
Well, and what Jensen says there is the word human in the loop, which if you don't know what human in the loop is, don't feel bad. It's not like a common term, but what it basically means is there will need to be a human as part of the feedback loop that these AIs deal with. But that does not need to be a 1-for-1 human in the loop. It doesn't even need to be a 1-for-10 human in the loop. I think ultimately maybe like a 1-for-100 human in the loop. Like you could see an Amazon warehouse run by 6 humans that there normally might be 1,000 humans, because there are now a 2,000 version of robots, and those 6 humans are in charge of maintenance and doing all this other stuff. Now, we are not there yet, but this is a world that exists and is coming. And it kind of leads us into, Kevin, our special guest today, which I'm really excited about. I actually, humanoid robots are such a big deal, and Figure 01 is one of the most interesting ones. We have a really fascinating special guest.
Gavin, he's coming. He's actually grabbing the guest microphone. He's grabbing the guest microphone. What am I supposed to do?
Go ahead.
What's up, Kevin, Gavin, and all you tech-savvy listeners out there in the digital cosmos? It's your boy, Tech Drip, in the building, ready to drop some knowledge bombs and shake up your neural networks with the latest and greatest in tech innovation.
That's cool.
Strap in, fam. Because we're about to take this podcast to the next level.
Tech Drip. So I was going to get to this Tech Drip, but Tech Drip is a rapper who likes to rap specifically about humanoid robots, which is actually kind of a cool thing. Like, I didn't think he was going to be a jerk about it, but yes, of course he is. So
he wasn't being a jerk. He's ready to drop some knowledge on us, and I'm ready to have my neural networks shaken.
Let's ask him what he thinks about the current state of humanoid robots in the world.
Hey, let me lay it down hot for y'all. Humanoid robots are cracking the code on the future right before our eyes. We got creations like Optimus Gen 2 and that slick H1 from Unitree. Not just walking, but strutting into the spotlight. These metal mavens are more than just nuts and bolts. They're reshaping industries, bro Zoes. And don't even get me started on Figure 01. This robot's dancing circles around what we thought possible, bringing that sci-fi fantasy to your front door. It's not just about assistance anymore. It's about transcendence.
Sure, okay.
We're witnessing a revolution, fam, where tech meets tenacity, and humanoid robots are leading the charge. Today, we're all about robots keeping up with us. Wiki, wake up. Because the future's not knocking. It's already here.
Wiki, wake up. Okay, so somehow he must have snuffed some sort of weird tranquilizer throughout that whole answer, because it slowly went down.
What happened?
I want to make sure so just so everybody knows, this Kevin and I have created with a prompt. If you're new to the show, this is an AI co-host. This is completely generated by us, this idea. I heard a little birdie tell me that Tech Drip brought some songs to play of his favorite. He's a rapper, and he makes raps about
He was in the parking lot
robots.
trying to hand mini discs to people when they got out of their cars. It's like, you're going to love this.
Exactly right.
Hot
That's
fire. Can you handle these demos? So yeah, apparently he brought some of his tracks. I don't want to play all of them, Gavin, but maybe some like little 30-second samples.
Hey, that's good to play. Let's play 30-second samples of the first one he brought for us. I think this one's about Figure 01.
Yeah, this is Mech Mind's anthem.
In the lab where the future spun. Here's a tale of breast Figure 01. Crafted with a mind, not a simple script. Innovation shift. He daring and he captains it. Mental minds, they twist and shout. On the breast, come on. They break out. Check the mech. No plain tech. Figure 01's got respect. On the scene, it's so pristine. Brett Adcock, the dream machine. Switch gears, we've here. Now hear it clear. Gavin Purcell, what's that I hear? Old school Jack with his podcast track. Against these bots, you'll vibe the rap. Your waves trying to crash our sleek tech bash. Breast creation slash show dome.
Okay, hold on. I got to stop that there.
Wait, hold on.
First of all, Tech Drip
Wait a
coming
second.
online when he's in the booth. I love that.
Yeah. He's who knew he was a grime rapper? I didn't realize he was a grime rapper, but what the hell, man? Is he coming after me? Was that like it sounded like there was something about me in that rap.
I definitely heard your name. I could not make out anything else around it, but I definitely heard a shout out to you, Gavin, which is really interesting to hear in a song that should have been about different humanoid robots. Did he have an opinion on those robots, by the way? I didn't...
If you're watching the video, we'll make sure to include the lyrics to the rap that he put in there. And I just read them myself, and it's actually semi-offensive. I'd like to ask him really fast why he decided he was going to come after me in this song, because I just wanted to know what his thought was, and I don't understand what the deal with this. Does he have a problem with me?
You know how it is in the studio. Spitting bars is all about that playful jab and hype.
Yeah.
Gavin, he's got that vibe that just begs for a friendly lyrical duel. You feel me?
I do feel
it's
you.
It's all love.
Tech
just
trip,
pushing
yes.
each other to bring out the best, showing that fire. And Kevin, man, that dude's cool, like the dark side of the pillow.
Oh.
He's got that
The
chill,
dark side of the pillow.
sage wisdom that just flows, making everything seem smoother, sharper. It's like when he steps into the room, the game elevates.
That's right. When he's not wrong, he's not wrong. Thank you, Tech Trip.
This feels like we're in a different. I've done this before, Kevin. I
He's
feel
saying
like
two.
we're in a slightly different. All right.
Sorry,
fine.
he's saying
What's the
two. He
next
wants me
song?
to play the second track called
Okay,
Tech
play the
Strut.
second
All right.
track.
Okay.
All right, play
Thank you,
Tech
Balloons.
Strut.
Rolling through the lab, Alice steps quiet, electric soul in a robot ride. Boston Dynamics, they flip the script, all electric moves. This tech is equipped, then we slide to the side and let's switch to view. Talking about Gavin, bro, what it do? Much of that droop by, you need a new plan. Trying to keep up, do you even scan? Much it cap like he's all that, but next to Atlas, man, he just flat. Gavin stepping, but he's missing pace. Droopy eyed, bro, you're losing the race. Hit the gym, maybe let's run a lap before you're tripping that tech savvy trap.
Okay. And that's how it is when you're in the
It
booth.
said-
You understand that, Gavin. You got to have that playful jab and hype. And
He said I have a droopy eye. What in the hell? That is one of the most meanest things I've ever
he also
heard.
said you're
I have a
flat
droopy
compared
eye.
to Atlas. And is that an attack on the dumper? Is it going after the dumpy?
Oh, wow. He's going after my dumper, saying I'm out of shape. Damn it, man. Tech Drip, what is going on here?
Oh, he just held up a fist and then went. Zzz, zzz, zzz. I think he wants me to play the third track,
What?
Gavin.
Oh, there's a third track, Tech Dump.
Optimus Prime
Name Tech
Time
Dump?
Vroom Tesla's new spectacle Zoom. Yeah, the joke's more like kaboom. Stale frail, they flop in the room. Skirt through his humor, it's a tomb. Old gags decay with broom. Gavin, whoa. Jokes so snooze.
Jokes so
Drop like
snooze.
bricks, they never amuse. Nah. Echoes in the void. Comedies, ghosts it's all but destroyed. Splash like Sim on Gavin. Crowds annoyed. King of gestures.
Okay, well, thank you, Tech Drip, for all of that, I suppose. Gavin, I'm sorry you made a very powerful enemy in the AI hip-hop community.
No, Tech Drip is the one who made an enemy. He's going to go down, and I will take him out at some point in the
yes.
future. Again, everybody, we're sorry sometimes for these things. Sometimes they work really well. Sometimes they don't.
Very quickly to the listeners, if they have an idea at 11 o'clock at night and it needs to hit the next morning very quickly, how could you possibly record an entire hip-hop track about it?
So very quickly, I used ChatGPT and I said, help me write a rap song. It comes out with a really crappy one. And then I threatened it and said, please help us make it better and faster and dumber. And then I used UDIO, our song generation, AI song generation engine, and plugged those ideas into UDIO. All of which just to make a very dumb diss track against myself for what is a very dumb, small, tiny piece of comedy at the smallest level of tininess for what we do on this show.
Everybody saw what you did there, Gavin, and they loved it, which reminds me, it might be time for a segment of our show that we call AI. See what you did there.
See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care. Then suddenly you stop and shout. AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
Now that we've lost all of Kevin Rose's audience, let's dive into the things that we come across, Gavin, as we're scrolling through social media posts and YouTube videos. These are the things that stand out and make us say, hey, I see what you did there. And you have a fantastic one for us this week.
Yeah, this is a very quick one. It is by one of our favorite creators. His name is Demon Flying Fox, and you probably know this guy from the Harry Potter Balenciaga video that blew up the internet midway through last year.
You are Balenciaga, Harry.
Spawned an entire series of memes. It was very, very good. He has taken these 1950s kind of Panavision style trailers. People were using Midjourney to create images and then Runway ML to animate current things that make them look like they were made in the 1950s. And what Demon Flying Fox did is he created one that was a realistic variation of The Simpsons set in the 1950s using these kind of Panavision poppy colors. And you can see on the video, if you're watching, you'll see Homer, you'll see Bart, you'll see Lisa, you'll see Maggie. But then it's even more fun because it goes to all the side characters. It's just what's a really cool way of looking at how to use these AI tools to make something that, again, is fan fiction. It is something that is super fun, but it is not serious. It is kind of goofy, and it's purposely goofy. And I just really thought he did an amazing job with it.
There's also a Futurama one, which was just recently posted as well, a variation of the theme. But I think they're really brilliant. And when you sent them to me, it stopped me in my tracks, and I said, hey.
I see what you did there.
I see what you did there. Each and every week, you and I leverage AI tools to do some pretty dumb stuff. And sometimes it's making hip-hop diss tracks for a robot that doesn't like us but likes other humanoid robots. Other times, it's what, Gav?
Mine today was, I actually used this in my robot creation or to create our AI co-host. If you didn't see this, kind of big news, ChatGPT has now launched a memory feature to all of its GPT-4 Plus users. So you have to be a paid user to get this, but it's pretty cool in that you can now ask ChatGPT to remember things for you. So if you're a heavy user of ChatGPT, or really if you've ever used it, you may know that when you pop open a new chat, it started from scratch. And then there was a set thing they had called custom instructions, which was something that you could set up so that every time you opened a chat, it would remember a specific thing. Well, what memory is doing and promises to do is it allows you to add certain things about yourself or about whatever you want the project to be into ChatGPT. So the way that I used it in this particular instance is, first I wanted to make sure it knows about our show. So I kind of gave it a few facts about the show. But one of the kind of secret sauces we do with our AI co-host is it actually is a pretty long prompt, right? And every time you make it, you have to work with ChatGPT to get it to adjust that prompt so that it understands this is the format I want, but here is the new inputs and here's the new thing. Like for this week, I said I wanted to be a rapper, I wanted to know about humanoid robots, and I wanted to dislike Gavin. And in the past, I would have to kind of wrangle it back and forth and kind of make sure it understood what the actual format was, and then I could go in and tweak it to make it what I wanted. Well, I will say with ChatGPT memory, I was able to do what I used last week and put that into the prompt as a piece of memory, and then I went to access it, and I didn't have to do the wrangling. So Kevin, like that felt like already a step in the right direction, and people are doing really interesting things with this. This is like the very beginning stages of a personalized ChatGPT experience, and I think it really does show where the company is going, because I want my ChatGPT to know as much about me and remember as much about me as possible so that when I ask it, hey, give me a music recommendation, or like, I read this book, I want to try something like it, I would love it to be able to know the things that I've already done.
It's a really, really powerful unlock, and people are already hacking it in interesting ways. For example, if I ask you for a list, give me 5 items always. So you don't have to specify in your prompt each time, here's how many I want. Or remember, if I say X, do Y. It's a very simple, plain English prompt, but it will hard code behavior into the AI that wouldn't have existed outside of whatever chat session you were in for that one moment. And when you think about the scaling of this, Gavin, that they have servers running right now that are humming on millions of users, having multiple chats a day and having to remember every word that's being said. And that is its own instantly accessible database for everyone. Like my tiny little brain liquefies out of the sheer scaling of it all, because it seems like a tiny feature if you just say, oh yeah, now it can remember you. But having to roll that out for everyone is no small feat.
Yeah, and especially to call back against the LLM, right? Like, I think that's the tricky thing. Because, like, obviously, you could put things into just memory somewhere, and it could be like, oh, this is my individual back and forth. But to be able to remember and then call to the LLM and have that interaction happen, it feels super special. And that feels like a really cool thing. So that's what I spent some time with this week.
Gavin, I spent a lot of time in a quaint little AI town that I own, that I operate. I'm the mayor. I'm the villain. I am the alpha. I am the omega.
What about me, man?
You were there too. You were there too. You'll see. It's fine. So if you go to convex.dev/AI town, or just Google it, there is a virtual town where AI characters live, chat, and socialize. And it was this A16Z backed AI experience where you could log in and then hop into an AI powered town in real time, along with I think 7 other human beings. And you could walk about and have conversations with the characters, and the characters are going to remember you, remember what you say, remember what the other characters say. The town is alive, and much like what you just discussed, the AI has a memory. And it's really cool, except only a handful can be in that world at once, and you have no control over the world. You're just a sort of an avatar walking about and conversing. Well, you can now download and run that program locally, and it was something I was able to do in one click because hashtag not an ad, but shout out to our favorite piece of software, Pinocchio.computer. It's just called Pinocchio, but if you go to Pinocchio.computer, you can download it, and you can run AI Town on your Mac, on your Windows PC, even on Linux. Cocktail Peanut, the developer of Pinocchio, made it one click simple to get this up and running. And then I went in through the files, Gavin, and I found this character file where I could go and then I could see the code, and it was the character's name and a little bio about them and what their goal happens to be. And I said, ha, I can edit this plain text. So I went in there and started mucking about, and I put Guy Fieri in the town. I put you in there. I said that you were obsessed with analytics and promoting a podcast and cutting TikToks. Yeah. I put myself in there, of course, as the most charming, handsome, and hilarious member of the AI town, obviously. Sure. And
obviously.
The prerequisites are very simple. You have to have Ollama installed on your computer. That allows your local computer to access the Llama Meta's AI language model. It lets it run it, and that's what's powering this AI Town experience. So you have to have Ollama running, and then you can run AI Town. Again, if you're doing it on Pinocchio, it's very easy. In fact, I just updated the app, Gavin. I was going to give instructions on how to get in there, find this characters file, show you some of the code and how you can easily modify it. But Cocktail Peanut just one-upped me. If you're in Pinocchio, there is a world editor, and all you have to do is click that, and it pops open in a web browser, that exact file where you can add characters, you can change their personality types, you can muck with their goals, etc. It's a cute little AI town that you can simulate for yourself, drop your friends and family in there, you can eavesdrop and see what they're saying to each other, or you can put yourself in the world and have a conversation with one of the characters as well.
I want to see if anybody can break this. One of the fascinating things about watching people play with The Sims, and when I say break this, obviously somebody can go in and break the code, right? It's not that fun. What I want to see is is there a Lord of the Flies sort of scenario you could create? Or is there something that could happen in this AI town, whereas if you gave what if you gave all of the personalities of them like door-knocking Mormons, and there's one guy who's like a normal person, and so like all the Mormon door knockers try to come to the one guy's house? I want to see if there's ways that you can...
Each resident has their own MLM, and the only person who will get to survive in the town has to get the rest of them in their downline.
Is whoever signs up the most.
That's right.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great. I want this expanded video game to be a thing, right? Like, I would love to just see essentially SimCity or The Sims, but really allow personalization and characterization, right? With The Sims, there was kind of this illusion of this that you could really have this kind of free will and everything like that. But I want almost like the Dwarf Fortress style small town game where you can zoom out, drop a person in here, drop a person in here, give them very weird and specific goals, and then just watch the chaos unfold. I think that would be a super fun simulation game. Also, I just thought about this while we were talking. I sure hope that's not what the alien race in the other dimensions thinks that they're doing to us, and that is what this is right now, because that would make a lot more sense if that would make a lot more sense about what is happening right now in our world as well.
Yeah, someone got carried away playing Earth Tycoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're just all
Let's
running
throw
about.
a crazy tornado. Let's throw a crazy tornado season out. Watch this tornado go. Look at what they do in this. Look how close they drive to this tornado. You won't believe it.
That's the dumb thing that I did with
exactly
AI
right.
that all of you can do with AI this week. It makes it nice and easy. Grab Pinocchio or install it locally on your computer and break some things. It's the fastest way to learn.
Speaking of gaming, we're super excited to welcome our guest to today's show. He has been in game development for about 20 years and has been streaming actively his game development for a while now. You know him as Pirate Software. His name is Thor, and we are super excited to talk about his indie game, his thoughts on AI, and really everything under the sun with him right now. Thor, before we start, though, we're going to ask the most disturbing possible question you can ask about AI. On a scale of 1 to 100, and this is a number I'm looking for you, what percentage chance do you think that AI has to kill all people and why?
I'm going to say 0 because I think we'll do it to ourselves first, legitimately. Yeah, it's one of the things that's funny because my community asks me about this all the time. Like, do you believe in aliens, And let's say, this is going to get kind of complicated. It'll be longer, right? But the Earth actually has an electromagnetic sphere around it, right? Protects us from interstellar radiation. Sun has the exact same thing. If you go outside of that, radiation is so high, destroys organic life really, really fast. You'd have to have massive amount of shielding to get through it. So if it is aliens coming to our planet, right? If we do actually have that, it's likely that they're robots. Much more likely than it being organics in any way. So let's say that we build up an AI in our current form, one that goes out and explores space for us and signals back information. This would be the best way to explore outside of our solar system in a way that was tangible. Well, what happens if that happens and it's leading back to a race that's long since dead? It's much more likely at that point. How many other species did the same thing? So I think it's more likely we kill ourselves before AI kills us. And maybe AI outlives us doing menial tasks that lead back to no one.
That is the most well thought out answer, Kevin, that we have ever had to that question. So Thor, thank you for that. And I kind of agree. I think that's pretty smart.
Wait, okay, question. Do you think we actually punched through the Van Allen belt, or do you think we faked the moon landing?
I think we probably punched through it. I think we did. Much to the not very good health of the people involved, frankly.
Did we go through the bottom side of our flat Earth, or did we shoot out of the top?
Good question.
Oh. I think we go right into the core where all the bad guys are. You remember? Have you seen all these crazy?
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
In Agartha, they escaped into Agartha. There's this whole entire thing with it. It's ridiculous.
They're hanging down there with the
Actually
Fraggles.
insane.
I think that's the lore.
Yeah, exactly. The moon is a hologram, but it's also hollow. Don't forget that. That's important.
So it's okay. So
I love conspiracies. Man.
Me too. Maybe humanity wiping itself out is not necessarily a conspiracy. It might just be history repeating itself for some. Do you think AI accelerates that chance of the doom and gloom outlook of humanity, or do you think AI could potentially save us?
I think AI is going to be really, really useful as a tool for some activities. I think in learning things such as, for instance, folding at home, right? Folding at home was used for a very, very long period of time. It's still used today for doing things like being able to fold proteins to try and make advancements in medical science. AI does that infinitely better than just having a bunch of people running normal CPUs at home. It does it infinitely better than having a bunch of researchers doing it. I think some of the biggest gains we can have with AI currently are in activities like that. Large data sets, pattern recognition, massive associations. And I think that could do a lot of good for humanity, massive amount. At the same time, if you misuse AI to do something very terrible with it, such as take over large amounts of systems or cause havoc inside of a country or do things aggressively over the internet, it can cause a lot of damage, right? There's so many different ways this can go, and it's kind of like having a gun, right? You can use it for defense, you can use it for offense, and it's a tool. It's a tool like anything else. I don't think right now we're in danger of having AGI, artificial general intelligence. But I do think that AI as its current form is a tool that can be used for many different purposes.
I think that's super smart. It's a lot of what we talk about on the show too, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there who are getting up in arms about the idea of things that aren't even possible about it yet. But obviously, there are future things you could look at and go further and further. Let's take one step back before we jump back into the AI stuff. I do want to talk a little bit about how you got started because, first of all, you are very good at what you do. You are streaming every day, which I also appreciate how active you are and how often you go back to the spot. What turned you from a game developer into a Twitch streamer?
It's actually still both. So
of course.
So I actually stream under software and game development most generally, and I do that because I make video games on stream and I try to teach other people how to make games. it's something I've been in the games industry for 20 years. So after doing everything that I've done throughout my career, I was like, I'm going to go make my own studio. I have an opportunity to do it. Let's go for it. And I realized something that really bothered me, which is so many indie studios were going into things like early access and stuff like that. They would take the money and they just run away and nothing would happen. And it became more and more and more of a problem where people were basically just getting wrecked, where they're like, throw all this money in an indie dev. The project never came out. It was dumb. It's like, how do we prove to people that we're going to do that? First, we went out and Kickstarted with a demo. And second, we stream all the development. So I've done that since the very beginning, and it just sort of evolved over time, and I got better at talking to people and more comfortable kind of telling stories, and people started to stay. And then last November, we tried to go from 13,000 subscribers on YouTube to 15,000 was the idea by the end of the year. We started putting out a lot of shorts of me just talking about certain things, and after 7 years of me talking about things, I got a lot better at telling stories, and we went from 13,000 in November to 1.7 million as of today.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Since November of last year. See, Kevin, it can happen. Kevin, it can happen.
Yeah, you have to have
it's
real talent, real ability. You have to have a voice that demolishes both of ours in basically in every aspect. It really does. I could listen to you for days, but Gavin and I, we struggle at about the 45-minute mark, and our listeners know it.
That's why we use AI. That's
right.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
You guys got it. I'm going to be real with you. When I first started streaming, I could make it maybe an hour before I was like, my vocal cords hurt. Like it was like I need to go lay down. Now I go 12 hours a day, every day except for Thursday.
That's incredible.
And it's like constantly talking the whole time.
And are you actually you're coding while you're doing that? Like, so you're working while you're talking? Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I'll be coding. Sometimes I'll be like thinking about how I'm going to build a cutscene out or whatever it's going to make. Right. Sometimes I'm just talking to chat, and answering questions. A lot of what I do is I have this huge system where people like throw bits at me, which is like currency on Twitch.
Yeah.
And then they ask me a question about their career or their life or anything like that, and I answer the question while I'm doing other stuff. And it's mostly. It's a really useful system because it allows people to ask and not have their question missed because it all goes into the queue. But there are so many people to ask questions that I can't get to them all. So the way that I handle that is at the end of the stream, I have an automated system that calculates the value of all of the missed messages, and then we donate that to charity. So I've given out $29,855 to charity through that system so far.
That's amazing.
Since November, by the way. So that's just going to keep going up. We'll probably have I don't even know, maybe 60 to 100K by the end of the year if it keeps going that direction.
I love how you're so comfortable now with your community too, which is such a cool way. I mean, obviously you get used to that. Kevin's done this a lot longer than me, but it's fun to start to get to know your community better over time and have them get inside jokes and all that stuff. And it feels... It's different from me, who comes from traditional media, right? I spent a lot of my career working in television or producing for celebrities. It just feels different to have this direct connection, even if it's a smaller audience, with these people who understand you and have been along the journey for a while.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things I always tell the community, too, is they're my boss, man. Like the chatters, the stream, chat, they're my boss. Without them, none of this happens. None of it. Not a single thing. I find that a lot of the times there are streamers that will hit it big or become large, and they get kind of this weird ego towards their community where they're like, I'm better than you. That's why I'm so... It's like, no, dude.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. Thank you for pointing that out.
Because of the people who watch us.
Thor.
Did you get the big ego? Nice.
100%, man. That's why I gamble on stake now. I occasionally talk about AI, and then I hit the high limit slots. But we don't have to get into that. I want to focus on you and your success and your amazingness.
Okay.
Something I really love, I love your site so much because it's a quick little bit about you. Obviously, if you're live streaming, it's there. And then the rest is like, hey, you want to do this? There's no magic. You even demystify the talent aspect of it. If you just work hard, and there's no best editor, there's no best sound tool, there's no best anything. There are just different approaches, and you just got to try something. And we talk about AI every week on this podcast. I feel like we are so very much in that phase of these tool sets right now that it's so exciting that when anybody comes to me and asks, well, where should I start? What should I use? What should I do? What is best? That's always such a loaded thing. It's like, there is no best. Just go out there and use, and eventually you'll figure out what is best for you.
I think that's the biggest question that I get to. People come to me and they're like, what programming language should I learn first? I'm like, no. A programming language is like a tool, like a hammer, a saw, or a screwdriver, right? So you wouldn't say, how do I learn hammer? It doesn't make any sense. So you say, how do I build a house? And then you go, okay, you build a house with these tools. How do I build a website? You build a website with these languages. It's the same thing, exactly the same.
Actually, that's a good transition to get us into talking a little bit more about AI, because obviously you know this, the game development community in a lot of ways is very divided on AI, right? And I think we come from a place where we see AI as these tools that are getting better, but on the other side, there's all these people that rightly have an understanding that like the way these were trained and all this other stuff kind of isn't great, and it's going to maybe cause jobs to be lost. Where do you land on the AI in game dev debate?
So the biggest thing that I think about in terms of AI is where's the training data from? That's the most important thing when you're dealing with content creation. If the training data is made from assets that are made in-house for artists that have been paid or licensed for that work, no problems. You can make whatever you want out of that, right? If the artists have been licensed for their work that is put into that training model, and then the art that is being produced out of it is because of that licensed work, we have no issues. If you're going online and just grabbing as much art as you can, and those artists have not been licensed and they haven't been paid, now we have a problem. Now we have the entire issue of the debate about this. And I think that nuance kind of gets lost on a lot of people. There's many people online that just start raving about saying all generative AI is bad, but it's like, no, this can be used quite well if you have the rights to the work that's going into the training data. And then we don't have a problem anymore. So I think that's the big one for me, is that would have a space in making stuff in games for that. I think the other thing too is talking about, is an AI going to steal my job? This happens a lot. This conversation comes up a lot, even in programming. Is AI going to take my job? Should I get into IT? Should I get into security, or whatever it's going to be? And the way that I feel about this is, let's say we can do this as a 4-part table, right? You say, let's say I want to be a programmer, and I don't want to learn programming because AI might take my job one day. Well, at that point, if you don't learn programming, it doesn't matter if AI takes your job or not. You're going to.
It was never your job to take.
Yeah. Doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Never your job to take, so that doesn't matter. Let's say AI does take the job in the future, but you decided to learn programming, right? Well, now you have an understanding of logical process, you have an understanding of programming languages, you have a way to pivot, and you have a way to adapt, which you didn't have before because you invested in yourself. And if you try to become a programmer and you learn everything along it, and the AI doesn't take your job, guess what? You get to be a programmer. Cool. So the real question is not whether or not AI is going to take your job, it's, are you going to invest in yourself or not? Are you going to learn what it takes to be a programmer and invest in yourself to learn logical process and learn programming and learn all these different aspects, or not? You see, AI is relevant.
I made that table.
The outcome is
I made that same table and I put it on my mood board, but with regards to AI girlfriends, and I just decided the AI is going to take them all, so I'm just not going to have sex, and I'm just not going to talk to women. Did I do the logic wrong? Because the way you just said it makes me think I probably should have just gone out there and tried to learn to program.
You should have.
Damn it.
You should have. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
What do you think, Thor, about...
Maidenless now.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about Copilot? Obviously, Microsoft is really kind of setting it up as a partner for you when you're programming, but there is some questions about the data set that was used for. Are you familiar with kind of that backstory on that?
Yeah, I actually don't like Copilot a lot of the times. The way they describe it to the community is it generates mid-code.
Okay.
So what it's doing is it's taking the most average, most common solutions to things. Generally, when we're programming, like as a programmer, I'm not just using the most common solutions. I understand when to break the rules and when that increases efficiency, when that allows more security, when that allows other functionality to appear. I break the rules in those locations to do uncommon code to make things better. When you're doing something like Copilot, it's going to give you some of the most common solutions to these problems, which doesn't mean they're secure, doesn't mean they're the most efficient, doesn't mean they're the best. And if people are kind of delegating that creativity away to an AI currently, they're going to become worse programmers, hands down. They're not solving those problems. They're not learning exactly why that solution's put into place, and they're going to propagate security issues. We see it all the time. Even major companies give accidentally by creating something that's vulnerable, and someone goes, well, Google did that, I'm going to do that, and then they're vulnerable as well. And I know this because I do bounty programs. I've been doing that for 20 years. I'm a hacker, right?
That's right. You're a DEF CON type of guy, right? You go and try. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 3 black badges from DEF CON, and my last job was hacking power plants for the DOE, the Federal Government. So that was
wow.
Yep.
Wow.
They flew me around the country to go hack power plants. So like when I see these types of things like, oh, you guys have delegated away, your coding to this, and it's giving you the most average results, you're going to propagate security vulnerabilities. That's just going to happen. And they won't be vulnerabilities like, oh, I can patch this. It'll be vulnerabilities in workflow. It'll be vulnerabilities in login management, in all the little things that can't just be patched by pulling down the latest Microsoft patch, right? In the actual flow of your website, the actual flow of your programs. And That's disturbing to me. That's a bothersome thing, because you'll just have a whole generation of people that don't know any better, and that sucks,
Okay, it does write mid-code, and I think a lot of coders would agree with your sentiment there. You're approaching it also as a level of someone who gets drop-shipped into energy facilities to hack them from our government. So the level of code that you write and what you would pass as good is probably a little bit above someone getting into something. Do you worry about a Copilot by any other name becoming a crutch to a newer coder, someone who's trying to learn? Because some people are split. They say, let the AI help you learn what it looks like. Now you have an understanding of how to write this thing or fill out something a little bit quicker. But then there are others that claim like, no, you shouldn't invite this tool into your life at an early phase, because you're probably not going to learn it yourself. You're going to rely on it. It's going to become a wobbly crutch, slightly broken support.
It's definitely a wobbly crutch for a lot of people. It really is. And their projects suffer as a result of that when that does happen. I think in its current form, the best usage is teach me this concept like I'm 5. I think it's a great use of that, where you go to it and you go, I would like to understand what arrays are. Can you teach this to me like I'm 5? Can you tell it to me, I don't know, in the style of Morgan Freeman, like whatever it's going to be. And you can get it to do that. And people do that all the time. And that actually works really well, like really, really well when you want to teach yourself in different ways. It's the same reason that we have what's called rubber duck programming, which is you put a little duck on your desk and you tell the duck what your problem is when you're programming. And the act of you saying it out loud lets you solve the problem better. If you have something that's explaining something to you in a lot of different ways rather than just the one way in the tutorial or the one way in the documentation, it can help a ton. And I think that's probably the best use case currently. I definitely would not have anything write the code for me. And even if I was starting out, because that will teach you the solution that is not a good solution without telling you why it's good or bad, right?
Right. It's,
Yeah,
hey,
that's really
I built
interesting.
the
One thing
house
we were
for
talking
you.
about
It
in the
might
show this
collapse
week.
and you have no idea what the tools are, but the house is there. Enjoy.
Yep. Yeah, it's there. You can have it. It kind of works.
It's funny. One thing we're talking about in the show this week is, have you seen? So ChatGPT has a memory function that it is announced this week in some form or another. It's not going to be perfect, but one of the things that I have found just playing around with it is this idea that it can start to remember stuff and store it so that it's not always having to be retaught the same thing. And right now, we're all kind of grappling with this kind of general ChatGPT, general AI kind of thing. Have you had like specific use cases for AI in that mold that you've used in your development process at all? Like anything like very specific?
No, I've actually not used AI at all in our development process. I've stayed away from it most generally. It's not even about like, would it be good or bad? It's just not necessary, right?
Interesting.
So like most of the stuff that we have set up right now are frameworks that I've already built myself. Like even things like doing the physics systems, the lighting systems, anything like that. There's no benefit that I could have for AI in there. I think the only thing that I would see in game development that is kind of an interest to me, that's kind of in its infancy, is having AI respond to players as an NPC. So having the NPC be more lifelike. But right now, it ends up just being such a mixed bag of responses that you can't curate the experience in a way that feels good. It kind of feels uncanny valley, right? Maybe in the future that'll be less uncanny valley, but right now it ends up being a novelty where people make fun of it rather than something that makes you feel more immersed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're actually covering a thing today called AI Town. Did you see? Have you familiar with AI Town? Have you heard about this at all?
No, I haven't seen it.
So basically, it is a series of AI agents that essentially, like almost like a Stardew Valley-like town, kind of interact with each other, and they create their own interactions. You just kind of follow along. You don't play it, but it's very Uncanny Valley-esque at moments, right? Watching the things they say to each other, they kind of screw up in how they say stuff, and it's just an interesting thing to see the AI try to figure out how to talk like a person, because it's not good at it in any sort of way really yet.
I think the best example I've ever seen of lifelike experiences where they actually matter with a long memory is Dwarf Fortress, and none of that was AI.
Yeah.
Like, it's brilliant, frankly.
Yeah, Dwarf Fortress is. I've tried to get into it multiple times, and every time I've failed. I know it's great, and I've spent hours and hours and hours in front of it trying to dive into it, and I just never found. But I know at some point I'll take like a lost weekend and just spend it all within Dwarf Fortress and figure it out.
It's so good. It's so good. Everything in that game matters. Like every experience that a dwarf has or any character has, all of it is stored. Everything they've ever done, and it changes their personality completely.
Incredible.
And that's all done using traditional storage, right? You know, in a game that originally was just all ASCII. So it's kind of wild.
I'm curious what you think about the end user. It's not something your community has to worry about just yet because it's nowhere near your products, but we just talked about a story today where Treyarch got into some hot water because they were looking for folks that could play with generative art assets, and they wanted a person on the team that was good with wrangling that art form, and predictably the community got very upset. There are some never AIers out there. Do you think that temperature is going to change over time for the community? Do you think it's going to be up to the developers to educate the consumers? Or do you think there'll just be like two different factions, one that says never AI and that's it, everything goes in the recycle bin, and those that accept it?
I think we see that always with any technology. You're always going to have people that are like, never this technology, always this technology. And I don't think either of those extremes make a lot of sense to me, frankly. I think there's good uses of tools and bad uses of tools. And when it comes down to this one, I think the best use of tool that you can have is ensuring that the artists themselves have been licensed for you to be able to create that generative work. And if that's done, then I don't think there's a problem there, frankly.
It's tough.
And it's
not to interrupt, but that's it. I fully agree with you, by the way, just, where Gavin and I are from. Credit and compensation is something we've screamed about a lot and will continue to scream about. But where I think it gets murky for some is the never AIers will say, even if you had a team generate 500 images of your retro futuristic toaster for your game, even if you had your team generate all that original art, it still goes into a machine that has benefited from being trained on a bunch of different art that may or may not have been licensed in the past, right? Ultimately, even Adobe...
That's the problem.
Yeah, even Adobe with their stated, this is an artist-centric Firefly model. Everybody gave us permission. We're all friends here. Even AI stuff got swept up into that. So at some point, you have to accept a little bit of maybe poison in the well, right? For 10 years.
I think you'd have to prove the training data. You'd have to prove the training data. Like, I think if you want to buy public trust in what you're doing, you have to prove the sources of all training data that goes into the model, right? And it's funny, too, because we've already seen generative AI in large-scale games. Like, if you look at, God, what is that game called?
The Finals?
No.
Yeah, Finals had it on the voiceover side for sure, for script and text-to-speech, but that was it wasn't art itself.
Rick and Morty guy. Oh,
the Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
game.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's a gun.
Yeah.
High on Life. All the backgrounds in High on Life are AI generated. All of it.
Oh,
if you look at all the posters, every single thing in there is AI generated. If we go look up High on Life right now, and you look up AI generation, they said they used it for finishing touches, but it's all the posters, everything in the backgrounds, all of that stuff is using AI.
Right.
And I could tell when it was in it because the reason they did it is because at the time, AI was generating text that looked like alien text, and it works really well in a game about aliens, right?
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the broken nature of it was a feature,
Yeah. Depending on what tool they used, they likely didn't get that in-house, right? They likely didn't build all of that stuff in-house, and it is now in a commercial work that is out in the public. And that really comes down to, well, are you going to fight it? Is it going to be fought? And I don't think that's been fought in High on Life, really at all. I don't think a lot of people cared, which is interesting. At the same time, if we were to use something, I would not use any generated images unless we had full license to all of the training data. But you'd have to prove that you had full license to all of the training data, right? I'd show everyone, here's all the assets where they came from. This is everything, right? This is what it is. This is what we used. And that would be kind of the whole point of it, is to make sure that that was public. And to be real with you, to go an extra mile to show people this is all the art that went into it, you're actually calling attention to every one of the artists that decided to, put the license up there and give you the license, which draws attention to their work outside of that training data too, which is beneficial for them, or would be if you had that agreement, right, where you guys agreed upon doing such a thing. So I think there's positive ways of doing this, but if you don't know what's going into the machine, you probably shouldn't be running the machine, right?
I think the question, it does feel like, I think Kevin was getting to this point, it does feel like it is a tricky thing to have this incredible tool at your disposal. And then do you go out and try to, on the back end, make deals with all those people? I mean, this is where it becomes like so crazy. Yeah. Or maybe you start and retrain again. Like, do you have
You'd have to do it over.
That makes sense,
you'd have to start over. It'd have to be a clean slate. The way that I kind of see AI right now is very Wild West, right? We have this new technology. It does all this wild. We're going to take a whole bunch of stuff, break a bunch of laws, not care about anybody's copyright and just throw it through. And then, okay, now let's do it the right way. And like, that makes a lot of sense to me in the way that kind of technology went forward.
Yeah.
That's why I stay away from, generative AI right now. To be real with you, I think the best use case for AI currently is, like I said, is in the medical industry and things like that for solving problems that actually don't have a drawback to solving them.
Now, I would argue, though, in some ways, that same data set is being trained on people's work in different ways, right? Like, and maybe because it's science, it's not as like specific to a person, but it is tricky. This is the whole thing. It's like, what is a collective intelligence?
I think we should shut it all down.
What does it mean to create something?
Just nuke the servers. We have the technology. Let's just get rid of it.
Just nuke it all.
By the way, that was a sincere suggestion that Tucker Carlson gave on the Joe Rogan podcast 3 times, and was not questioned. He really said that a logical use of the nuclear arsenal would be to take down the servers that are currently training and powering AI. No joke, no question. I just wanted to let you all know in case you want to put that on your Spotify radar.
Not gonna go listen to that. What?
No, don't, Thor.
the
You're
what
better
is
than
right,
that.
exactly.
You make
Don't do
good
it.
stuff. Don't
No, I have
context
to
switch in
now.
that way. Please don't.
I have to trust but verify.
Thor, tell us a little bit about your game. as we
Yeah,
wrap up
yeah.
here. I want to hear
That's
more
what I
about
wanted to get
Heartbound
to.
and tell us about what it is and how people can get it and kind of the work that's gone into it.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was actually the leader of comic book club back in high school, and I wrote a comic that was a choose your own adventure because I like the idea of somebody having control over where they go in a book. That's kind of
awesome.
neat, right?
Yeah.
And I wrote a book called Heartbound, and it was this tiny little comic book. It was like 20 pages, something like that. I had a blast making it. And one day I was like, one day I'm going to make a game out of this, right? Because my dad was in the gaming industry, so I was like, I'm going to make games. I'm going to do that. And then I went down the security route. And I stayed far away from. I got further and further away from games, even though I was working in the games industry for a lot of that. And then it worked for the government, and like I just kept moving farther and farther away. And then I got an opportunity to make my own game studio, so I did. And I started making my own games, and we worked on Heartbound. And it is a choose your own adventure RPG. It's incredibly experimental, right? There's not really anything else that plays quite like it that I've found. And because of that, my whole model on it was, I'm going to prove to you guys what I'm making. I'm going to show you what I'm doing every day. It's going to take me a long time. Most of the rooms in there have hundreds of routes through them. Many of them have different encounters that either no one has ever seen or likely very few people. And with that in mind, it's been worked on now for about 7 years, and we're in early access, and it's sitting in 96% positive reviews because of the amount that's gone into it. I do all the programming, writing, and design for it, so all the writing is mine, all the bad dad jokes, those are mine, you know. The design for each of the environments, the framing for everything, the technical art, so like lighting and shadows and things like that, and particle effects, that I do that. Shay does the art and animation, so anything you see visually outside of the technical art, that's all Shay. And the music is all Stijn van Wakeren, who's our musician that lives in the Netherlands. Phenomenal.
Music
Absolutely
is
fantastic.
amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic.
The music is
tune.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 100 songs in the OST now.
Oh my God, that's incredible! Wow.
It's 3.5 hours of music, and we also we put that up on Steam as well. So that's the OST up there. And one of the things we put on it is if you want to stream or have YouTube videos, you can play that music in the background. We'll never DMCA it.
That's awesome.
Ever.
That's awesome.
So
You almost have
'cause we
enough
own
to train your own
100%
model,
stuff
by the
after
way,
that.
from the sounds of it. You could single-handedly.
We're getting it. We can do it. I can't wait.
Hey, what about a mud or a muck or just even an AI powered bulletin board where you log in, and because the LLMs are pretty good at stringing together text, it just generates a bulletin board-esque experience for you. And when you go into the game, it's generating the game for you as well. Is that crazy?
AI generated posts?
Yeah.
So you're
all
saying
of
like
it.
AI generated posts? It sounds like Twitter.
All of it.
It sounds like Twitter pretty much daily, right? You just go to the
No,
bottom
less
of every,
link in
every
bio.
thread. You just find it at the
when
bottom
you
of it.
hit show more
Yeah, there's a little
replies.
bit down there.
It's so great that, by the way, they've got
a little bit of link in bio.
Yeah, they got good at flagging the link in bio. They got good at flagging like the OnlyFans stuff. But instead of just nuking it from the platform, they just let you click a button to disclose it. It's like, we still need the traffic. We still need the juice. We need to show the daily active users, but we'll just try to hide it.
To be honest with you, I'm mostly wondering, like, are they doing this so they can collect enough data to make sure they know what they're doing when they pull the trigger, right? Because like when I worked in security at Blizzard, because I worked there for 7 years, a lot of it was like, okay, we're going to form a detection. Let's review the data before we ban all these people, right? So if you're looking at that, it's
you might
easy
get
to
back.
think like maybe they're just doing it for money. Maybe they are, right? But also from the security side, I'm like, maybe they're just collecting data.
That does make
It
sense.
does make sense to do it that way.
Yeah,
And by
filter
hiding
it,
those
keep
people,
it,
you can
gather
get
more data, get
and
more
then
signal.
Maybe,
Yeah.
because you don't want to ban a lot of real users, right? That would suck. And then you also don't want to have the bots adapt. That's one of the worst things. It's like one of the things I always tell people. People are like, why don't you just ban them instantly? Like, no, dude, you do ban waves. You do them like every 3 to 6 months. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first one is you get enough data to ban them all at once, and they don't know how they got detected. That's great. That's super positive. And the other one is the guy making the bots, now he gets tens of thousands of people sending him angry threats because all of these people just got banned. You've just turned all those guys into ammunition. They just smashed the guy.
Oh, amazing.
With chargebacks and threats and anything else that's going on. It's like he's just got an angry mob, you know?
It's a fleshy denial of service attack. I like it. That's good. Maybe, I think it's probably the easiest explanation is that Elon just likes seeing those at the end of his scroll. And maybe that's why it's still there.
Is that what it is?
I think that's
like, I do think that link in bio is a very healthy part of this website. I like seeing those. That's good.
Thor, where can people find you online? What's the easiest place to find you?
So best place to find me is PirateSoftware.live. So that'll take you to the Twitch stream. So I'm on Twitch as twitch.tv/PirateSoftware and also twitch.tv/FerretSoftware because I run a ferret rescue. It's 24/7 on there as well. Yeah, we decided to make a rescue for ferrets. We have 37 in the rescue right now. We're actually scaling it up this year, so we're going to have the largest rescue in the United States. So we're going to be building a big facility and doing this.
Wow.
And the entire thing is funded by ad revenue from Twitch, which is wild, right?
That's
So we're using
incredible.
ads to do something that doesn't suck.
That's incredible.
Which we all hate ads, so like it's a nice way to do something with it. And then on top of that, I'm over on YouTube. We have a Discord, discord.gg/PirateSoftware. Discord's completely geared around teaching people as much as possible. And there's like tons of roles and things in there so you can learn different subjects. None of it's paywalled. It's all just free information, everything for you.
That's so cool.
And there's 120,000 people in there now. So it's
Oh
enormous.
my
Yeah.
God, that's
Yeah, it's
incredible,
huge now.
Thor. Yeah,
It's
that's
terrifying.
really
Gavin, what are we
Yeah.
doing with our lives? What?
All I'm saying
It's
is
a
we're
lot.
never going to make Thor angry because he can turn the fleshy anger at us
right.
very fast, Kevin. So we're going to make sure we keep
Well, I'm
Thor
just
happy.
I'm going to announce you guys after this, and there's going to be like 50,000 people just blow up your whole website. That's how it works. We call it. It's like goblins of service at this point. It's the hug of death.
I love that. Yeah.
That's
Well,
great.
So all the
Well,
goblins show up and they hug you to death.
we get throttled
It's
after
terrifying.
5 visits. I found that out the hard way when I told my own family about our podcast. So please send them on. Thank you
Appreciate it.
for the time and thank you for everything
good
that you're
talking to you.
doing. I mean, genuinely, just really love what you're doing and really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
1,000 thanks to Pirate Software for the time and the energy. And if you made it this far, if this is your first listen, congratulations, you did it. And what a week you chose to finally tune in. We probably should thank Kevin Rose yet again, a good friend. We had a great time on his podcast. Always fun waxing poetic with him. If you liked this, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, like it, engage with it. Every ounce of juice helps us in the sea of algorithms because we're still a relatively new show. And one of the things we like to do is to shout out everybody who leaves us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And Gavin, we have 3 to get through this week.
Well,
and
2.5. We'll get to the 2.5. It's 2.5. I'll explain later.
Interesting. Left by Cletus the God. This 5-star Apple Podcast review does in fact say secretly written by Kevin. It is not. The body of the review says, as a huge fan of Attack of the Show and G4, as soon as I figured out Kevin was on a podcast, I ran to my computer, and over the course of about a month, I listened to every single episode. Kevin and Gavin make AI digestible and easy to understand while goofing around in the best possible ways, really proving that an idiot like me can use this stuff. Kevin will always be a wonderful host with charisma and insight into the tech world, and Gavin is there too. Thank you for getting our dynamic. All jokes aside, I seriously love the podcast. Keep them coming, guys. I love getting my AI news from you too. Well, thank you. That was very, very thoughtful, very kind, and not
so nice.
secretly written by me.
Okay, we have another one that's Keep It Weird. Klaus Mayer. He says, thanks for bringing back the Monster Milk in combo with the Llama 3 model. The CEO of Monster Milk, Merle, made me laugh out loud. I also appreciate that you guys take the time to use the models and tools rather than just reading the press releases. Keep it up and keep it weird. And I shouted this one out first because our last one, the half, is actually an updated 5-star review, which I didn't know you could do on Apple Podcasts. But this is an updated review. We read this a couple weeks ago from Toddles123. And if you remember, Toddles123 said, here's your 5 stars, now earn it. He was kind of threatening us a little bit to make sure we kept
worked.
the show weird.
It absolutely worked.
It worked.
Very quickly, very efficiently.
Yes. He said, update, thank you. That was the best. A llama on Monster's Milk wearing the grizzled old skin CEO. If I could give you 10 stars, I would. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, everybody. Whoop, whoop, everyone. Thank you
To
so
that
much.
point, Gavin, we have a lot of lore in our podcast that we sometimes get back to, and it's very off-putting to new listeners, and we understand that. So we were toying with the idea of doing basically a checkpoint episode, if you will, where we can send new listeners so they understand who we are, what this podcast is about, and get them up to speed on the basics of AI terminology, where the tools are, what the concerns are, etc. So that way we're not consistently re-explaining everything on every episode. So I would love, if you've made it this far in the podcast and you haven't already shared it with a friend and liked and subscribed and all that fun stuff, I would love for you to leave a comment on what you think would be valuable to hear in one of those early episodes, because we have our thoughts on what's important out there, but what would have been helpful to you to know right off the rip, that will be very helpful to Gavin and I as we put together this episode.
Yeah, what we wanted to really do with this is try to create a video that everybody could watch and get caught up on some of the basics in AI. This would not take the place of an actual episode. We would do this probably in addition to an episode, but we do think this would be a really cool thing that lots of people could send to people if they have questions about AI. So please do that. Okay, everybody, bye.